A political firestorm has erupted in Washington following the leak of a private phone conversation where a U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine, Steve Witkoff, reportedly advised a Russian official on how to approach negotiations with Donald Trump. While a few U.S. representatives immediately expressed fury, demanding accountability for the revelation that an American official was coaching a U.S. adversary, the majority of Congress has remained suspiciously silent. The most immediate and outspoken critics of the leak were a handful of Republicans and Democratic lawmakers. Republican Representative Don Bacon of Nebraska called for Witkoff's immediate removal, accusing the envoy of favoring the Russians and stating, "For those who oppose the Russian invasion and want to see Ukraine prevail as a sovereign and democratic country, it's clear that Witkoff fully favors the Russians. He cannot be trusted to lead these negotiations. Would a Russian paid agent do less than he? He should be fired." Pennsylvania Republican Brian Fitzpatrick labeled the leaked call a major problem and condemned the existence of ridiculous sideshows and secret meetings. He urged that Secretary of State Marco Rubio be allowed to do his job in a fair and objective manner. Democrat Ted Lieu was even more scathing, calling Witkoff an actual traitor and emphasizing Steve Witkoff is supposed to work for the United States, not Russia. The controversy stems from a call on October 14 between Witkoff and Yuri Yushakov, Russian President Vladimir Putin's senior foreign policy aide, a recording of which was obtained and transcribed by Bloomberg. During the conversation, Witkoff reportedly outlined conditions he believed would be necessary for a peace agreement, suggesting Moscow would need to gain control of Donetsk and possibly additional Ukrainian territory. "Now, me to you, I know what it's going to take to get a peace deal done. Donetsk and maybe a land swap somewhere," Witkoff is quoted as saying. He added, however, "But I'm saying instead of talking like that, let's talk more hopefully because I think we're going to get a deal here." Crucially, the envoy also provided Yushakov with tactical advice on how the Russian leader should engage with Donald Trump on the issue. This included suggestions on scheduling a Trump-Putin phone call before the planned White House visit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Today, Yushakov seemed to confirm the authenticity of the call on Russian state television, suggesting the leak was an intentional effort to hinder negotiations. He also recalled that during the conversation, he had relayed that Putin would congratulate Trump and refer to him as a real peace man. Donald Trump, however, defended Witkoff's actions last night. Speaking aboard Air Force One, he characterized the advice as standard practice for a deal maker. That's what a deal maker does. You've got to say, look, they want this. You've got to convince them of this. That's a very standard form of negotiation. He added that he imagined Witkoff is saying the same thing to Ukraine. The President's Special Missions Envoy, Richard Grenell, took a different approach, calling for the individual who leaked the recording to be fired, not Witkoff, labeling the anonymous leaker as a national security risk. The background to this high-level communication is Trump's controversial 28-point proposal, which would require Ukraine to surrender the entire Donetsk region, including areas currently under its control, to become a demilitarized buffer zone internationally recognized as Russian territory. The plan also proposes granting Russia control over Luhansk and Crimea while freezing the battle lines in Kherson and Zaporizhia, territories Russia has struggled to fully capture despite nearly 4 years of war. Though Moscow claims not to have discussed the plan's details with Washington, Putin suggested earlier this month that the U.S. proposal could serve as a foundation for a final settlement. Despite the controversy, Trump announced earlier in the week that he is sending Witkoff to Moscow to meet with Putin, while U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll will meet with Ukrainian officials in advance of a possible Trump-Zelensky meeting on Friday. The leak underscores a fundamental shift in the Republican Party's foreign policy orientation, moving away from the post-Truman doctrine consensus that positioned the U.S. as a cornerstone of European security. The rise of the MAGA movement has often viewed traditional alliance relationships as transactional burdens. This is a departure from the long-held belief shared by generations of Democrats and Republicans that mutual security support for allies fundamentally serves American interests. This perspective is rooted in an America First ideology that reduces global politics to a zero-sum game, prioritizing perceived domestic scarcity over international cooperation. The embrace of this viewpoint by some on the far right places them increasingly at odds with traditional neoliberal thinking. The leaked conversation, therefore, does not just raise questions about Witkoff's conduct, it highlights a profound generational realignment with one of America's major political parties regarding its role in the world, a role that now sees a senior envoy advising an adversary while key allies like Ukraine wait for firm, unambiguous support. The holidays are quickly approaching, and that always makes me think about my favourite traditions. For my family, it's making my grandmother's famous crescent rolls. It's a tradition that goes back to the 1940s, and thankfully I have tons of old, slightly yellowed photos of her and my mum baking them together. But what if you could give a gift that brings your favourite holiday traditions and memories to life every day? With an Aura frame, you can. Aura is the smart digital frame that lets you see those treasured photos and videos instantly streamed from your phone, so the joy of the holidays never fades. I have an Aura frame myself, and I can tell you it really makes the perfect gift. The app is incredibly simple to use, and you get unlimited free photos and video. Just connect to Wi-Fi once, and you're set for life. I even preloaded mine with a whole album of those old baking photos before it shipped to my parents. They absolutely loved seeing those memories instantly pop up. You can't wrap togetherness, but you can frame it. This year, make your gift truly meaningful. The earlier you order, the more time you have to curate your gift and add a special message. Plus, every frame comes beautifully packaged in a premium gift box with no price tag. For a limited time, visit auraframes.com and get $45 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code 5MIN at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code 5MIN. This exclusive Black Friday Cyber Monday deal is their best of the year, so order now before it ends. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Despite Russia's demonstrable history of working against US national interests and its record of human rights violations, Donald Trump has repeatedly taken a remarkably accommodating stance toward Moscow, desperate to see himself in that exclusive club of dictators. From his refusal to criticize Vladimir Putin during the 2016 election, calling him highly respected, to his more recent controversial assertion of a false moral equivalence when discussing Putin as a killer. We've got a lot of killers. You think our country's so innocent? The president has frequently appeared to elevate the Russian regime while simultaneously demeaning the United States and also Ukraine. Furthermore, his repeated harsh criticism of NATO and his questioning of whether the US should defend allies who do not meet spending quotas has raised serious doubts about his commitment to the bedrock of transatlantic security. While some allies have attempted to soften these remarks, the ambiguity remains, especially regarding US support for frontline NATO states like the Baltic nations. Compounding this concern is the web of associations tying the regime and the president himself to Russian interests. Investigations confirm frequent contact between members of Trump's 2016 campaign and Russian intelligence officials. The president's own history includes business dealings, such as the 2008 real estate sale of a Palm Beach mansion for a highly inflated price to a Russian billionaire. Most strikingly, the president's decision to reveal highly classified information to the Russian ambassador and Russian foreign minister in an Oval Office meeting, while banning US media but allowing Russian state-owned photography, has been cited as a stunning breach of trust and protocol. Taken together, these actions, statements and connections spanning rhetoric, business, foreign policy and personnel have fostered persistent uncertainty among US allies and adversaries alike regarding the true priorities of the Trump regime. This continuous pattern inevitably leads to a single critical unresolved question. When faced with a conflict between US strategic interests and the political expediency of accommodating Moscow, where will the ultimate allegiance of the Trump administration finally lie? I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.